Welcome back to the Double Duck Garage. I've got a problem with my 2006 Porsche Cayenne. It's driving pretty awfully at the moment. The worst thing being that the gear change is pretty much non-existent and I'm having to change gear using the Tiptronic buttons all the time, so driving it manually. It's also got stability issues and ABS issues. I've done a quick code read and I can see that I've got a sensor problem, so I'm going to have a look at that. So I'm going to have a look at this wheel speed sensor and see if I'm lucky enough for it just to be a dodgy connection, bit of rust on the contacts or something like that. It's obviously exposed to the elements, so it's not impossible that it's just got fouled up. And if I can't get it working, then I guess I'll have to order another one. Unfortunately, the contacts look very nice and clean. I'm obviously going to need to remove that bolt at some stage, so in advance I'll spray some duck oil on there. And all I can do now is replace the connector. It's an absolutely glorious Friday afternoon and I'm going to have a crack at changing this wheel speed sensor. I have a Magneti Morelli replacement courtesy of Autodoc, and just hoping that this bolt's going to come out. Well, the bolt came out with no problem at all. Unfortunately, the sensor turned out to be a different matter. Got a suspicion that this is going to break and end up having to be drilled out, but I'm going to take it slowly, plenty of duck oil, and see if there's any way that I can free it up. All that's happening at the moment is the body of the sensor's flexing and the bit that goes into the hub isn't moving at all. Unfortunately, that's one and truly stuck, and the sensor's actually breaking off anyway, partly helped by me. Right, it's just going to be a case of digging this out now. It's all solid plastic by the looks of it, so I can't imagine it taking very long. I shall go and grab some drill bits. I think that is pretty much the job done. It's looking pretty clean in there, and when I turn the disc I can actually see the drive shaft moving. Bolt it up. Okay. Reconnect the sensor. That wasn't too bad a job in the end. I can now put the wheel back on and test drive her. Just been out for a drive, done 4 or 5 miles, and the car is performing much better. Gear change is how it should be again. Didn't get rid of the lights on the dashboard or the codes on the LED display, so I've done a manual code clear, and I'm going to go out again and keep my fingers crossed that I don't get any indications of any more problems. I'm back out here looking at the Cayenne again. I've still got the PSM and ABS codes, but the gearbox is most definitely sorted now. I've done about 150 miles and it drove perfectly, shifted perfectly, and the code isn't there anymore. So this sensor's obviously doing something. It also makes me think that because that code's not reappeared for the gearbox, makes me think that the wiring is okay. A little bit later on in the afternoon, and what I've done is I've swapped the sensors around from rear right to front right and vice versa. The fault hasn't moved. Just so happens the Swampy was up here earlier this afternoon making use of the welder. He suggested that this could be an intermittent signal problem and suggested getting some live data. So we took the car out, I was driving, he was using the Autel, and we graphed the output from both front wheel sensors, and this is what it looks like. And as you can see, there is dropout on the offside wheel sensor. I think it's fair to say that this is explaining the code that's reported by the DME. So apparently the way this works is that the wheel sensor sends this signal to the PSM. The PSM talks over the CAN bus to both the DME, engine management, and the Tiptronic, the gearbox management. So I think by changing that sensor, we've now got a signal going to the PSM that is good enough to be able to send the correct signal off to the Tiptronic, hence the gearbox is working. It's sending the signal off to the DME as well. The DME is complaining that it's erratic, and obviously the PSM's not happy with it, so it's turning off the stability management and ABS and turning on the annoying lights on the dashboard. Going to have a look at this connection, see if there's any corrosion on it. Assuming it all looks okay, I can disconnect it from both ends, and then I can run a meter through it, jiggle the cable about a bit and see if I can find any broken wires anywhere. It could be completely unrelated, but that's not actually looking too fantastic. This is the other end of that cable. The reason why there's 4 connectors there is that it's also got the 2 connectors for the brake pad wear detectors, and obviously the 2 for the sensor that we're looking at. So now I can carefully wiggle all these connectors. That individual wire seems to be pretty good. I don't seem to be able to make it break anywhere, so I shall now move on to the other one. So a basic continuity test seems to indicate that cable is probably going to be okay. Problem is probably further up, from here up to the PSM. This is obviously suspect, but ideally I need to be able to get to the other end of this, which is I believe plugged into the PSM, and repeat the same sort of test and see if there is a break in the cable anywhere. First job, as with most jobs when dealing with electronics on the car, disconnect the battery. This module is the DME. This is the engine control unit. And supposedly underneath that is the PSM, the module that I need to get to. This is the ECU support bracket. It's held on by 1 bolt there, and then there's 2 studs with nuts that you have to take off that go here. I've taken the wheel back off the car and taken the wheel arch protector out, and that makes it a lot easier to get to this. This is the PSM module, Porsche Stability Management module. This is responsible for traction control and anti-lock brakes, and I have taken the connector off, as you can see there. So next job is to trace the wires from the connector in the wheel arch up to here. That's a really good start. It's definitely the right loom and the right module. I'm looking at pins 33 and pin 34 on the PSM, and the next job is to do an end-to-end test. Take the connector off of the sensor and plug it up all the way through, end-to-end test that and see if I can find any issues there. Apparently no issues with that one, so now I'm going to do the other wire. Both wires seem okay. Pulling them around, giving them a good odd yank won't break the continuity, so it's not as simple as something bouncing around and the wire breaking and making contact. Next thing I'm going to do is see if I can measure the resistance and see if I can actually induce any change of resistance when I'm pulling the wires around. So far so good. Now I'm going to do the other wire. To be honest, it seems unlikely that it's that connector. I'm also happy with the one up at the top here. Although visually that doesn't look fantastic. I can't get it to break connection, I can't get it to induce a change of resistance, so it's probably okay. Taking the car out for a drive, had a few shenanigans sorting out the steering angle sensor, but that's sorted. I've still got the PSM and ABS lights on though, so basically I haven't sorted the issue out. I don't really know what my next step should be. It also feels like I'm trying to troubleshoot this with the wrong tools, kind of like doing open heart surgery with an axe that I picked up from home base, I think. What I really need to know is what tools do I need and what should my next steps be? How do I troubleshoot this? I don't want to just put it into a garage and let somebody else do it, because I won't learn how to to sort this sort of thing out myself. I'd far rather put the time and effort into doing this myself, even if I had to spend a bit of money on buying tools. So really it's just a case of anything you can think of. What are your recommendations for next steps? What should I be doing? What tools do I need, etc, etc. If you can stick anything in the comments down below, give me a few hints. There's obviously going to be a part 2 to this, because it's obviously not fixed, and I'm going to go back to the PDFs and back to Google and take it from there. So thank you very much for watching, and like I say, see you in part 2. Cheers, bye.